Whether you consider yourself a hobbyist or a serious artist, the one thing we all struggle with is the idea of doing something is far more pleasing than actually doing it. This is why so many artists struggle with bad gas, gear acquisition syndrome, that is. Our belief is that the next device, paintbrush, or instrument will be the one that we use to start our daily practice, but that is almost never the case. This is because doing and creating requires an unpolished idea that you must refine over and over again. Buying instead gives hope of finished products that you might create. This is why I challenged myself to write more music with this. This is a Dirty Wave M8, and it makes music. It comes in a Game Boy sized package, but it is just as powerful as any modern digital audio workstation. It reads these numbers here to play the song. There are no notes or a MIDI piano roll like we're used to. The M8 has 8 channels, which means it can play 8 sounds at once. These numbers are called chains, and inside them are phrases, which are the same as measures of music. In those phrases is where the musical content we know is held, notes and rhythm. For each note, you can decide velocity, how hard the note is hit, and what instrument plays it, along with 3 effects per note, like chorus, reverb, delay, and degrade. This device has limitations because of this 8-track 3FX setup. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that it makes it perfect for the doing and creating of music. Since I've had this device, it has changed my outlook on music. The portability factor of the Dirty Wave M8 has turned spare moments into composition time. And those spare moments are where I have my best ideas. And that's because I can't edit myself. I just have to get something out. I have no time to overthink it. So that's lesson number 1. Act now and edit later. Tolerate the unfinished diamond that is the first idea long enough so it becomes an actual diamond. Lesson 2 is probably the most powerful out of them all. Set a limitation. In this case, the M8 only having 8 tracks is a pretty obvious one. That means only 8 notes can sound at once. Or 8 samples, whatever. But this lesson goes much deeper than that. If we take this lesson away from this device, what if you took a solo that was only in the span of an octave? I'd be willing to bet most musicians would struggle with that, including myself. But the point of it is that it makes you think. You can't just play the stuff that you're used to playing over and over again. You have to consciously decide that anything more than an octave is incorrect in this instance, which will make you a better player simply because you're actually thinking about your choices, which is kind of like composition. By setting any form of limitation, big or small, you force yourself to actually be creative, instead of relying on what your hands can do or what you know you're good at. In the case of this device, it is a spreadsheet. I don't like math. I've spent a lot of time trying to avoid math, and I've become very familiar with the standard piano roll and the regular digital audio workstation. They say familiarity breeds contempt, and while I'm not willing to go that far, I do think that coming up with a new system provides a lot more interesting results. Each new system I'm willing to devise creates so many new possibilities and varied results. In short, limitations are actually freedom. It's an oxymoron, but trust me, it works. This device has also made me incredibly accountable. You know, I always say to myself, the Dirty Wave M8 does everything. I can mix on here, I can master it on here, and I can take it on the train, plane, or automobile, right? But then as I look around, everything I have does everything I need it to do. My laptop does all of this, and albeit it's not as fun as the Dirty Wave, it's not as portable, really. My phone does all of this, but I've just chosen to be less accountable for those things. So I didn't even need to buy this. I didn't need the Dirty Wave M8. All I needed was to realize there are no excuses for me not to make music all the time, and for me not to try learning a new system and devising a new system. Anyway, all that is to say, I'm going to show you one of the old songs I've made on the Dirty Wave M8, and I'm going to explain to you how I did it. And then I'm going to tell you what I'm working on moving forward as a way to expand the capabilities of this device and to ultimately get more music out into the world. Alright y'all, so I'm back and ready to go to my gig tonight, but I'm here to tell you all about how I made this track. With the music I'm writing, I really want to be able to make it developing. I don't want it to be very loop-based, which this device makes very easy. You can copy and paste so quickly that it almost makes sense to just have something cool that loops and just lead up to it. But what I want to do is have something that continually develops, much like an orchestra, a great jazz solo, or, you know, a through-composed piece. Just classical music, right? So how am I going to do that? One of the ways I do that is I always try to have at least 2 sections. So one of them's got to be, you know, the A sections, one of them's got to be the B section, and then Usually I try to have like a development section or a solo section where one instrument is the feature, whether that be a live instrument or one that I'm programming in. That's what I'm thinking about. I want these lines to weave into each other, so I'm really interested in using counterpoint on this device, and you can hear that in this track. So for example, I'm having seemingly at random guitar stabs in the middle, or things that all fall together at the same point, or they don't land together. Basically what I'm trying to do is take every little action and weave it in like it's an 8-part counterpoint. And I don't think I'm that good at it yet, but I'm on my way. So for this particular song, I picked this sample as the main thing. I used a drum loop in this as well, and I liked the way that I think it's like a rim click or something on 2 and 4, so I tried to make it silent for that. So for about 8 bars, I have my normal thing. I have the loop-based idea. And then I introduce a kalimba melody over that. So in my mind, it keeps developing because of that. So you have the stated idea, the stated loop, and then it continues with another melody on top. And then, without there being much of a roadblock, it seamlessly, hopefully you think it's seamless, it seamlessly transitions into the B section, which is kind of a similar thing with that guitar stab from the intro that was kind of out of place, but then that becomes kind of the main hook for the B section. And then comes in my development section where everything is kind of in a triplet-based feel, which makes it feel really, really tense. And then we're going to go back to the main idea. Now, this triplet-based feel comes in, it's completely the antithesis of what has been happening before. We had a straight groove, clearly delineated 2 and 4, but now the melodic idea is contrasting with the drums idea, so it's going to feel really tense. And then we come back in the middle of that development section to the bridge section, or the first section, I think, for just 1 bar, and so it really just comes out of nowhere. It's meant to be tense so that you can get back to the A section and feel like you've actually gone somewhere. That's my thought process. That's how I made this track. Going forward, what I really want to be able to do is make sure my music is developing. It's not loop-based. That's really the main thing. I want to make it not loop-based. I want to make sure to emphasize counterpoint and have just interesting ideas overall. If you like this video, please subscribe. I'm going to be making a lot more music with the M8. If you like teaching videos, please let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.